Morning, everyone. Jesse with Nexus Property Management out of the Worcester office, continuing my docu-series on evictions here in the state of Massachusetts. Real quickly, just want to recap what I've done so far for you folks. Started off with just a overview of the different types of evictions that you can do here in the state of Massachusetts. I went into my understanding as a non-attorney here in the state of Massachusetts for cause evictions. And then I gave a brief summary on our most recent for cause eviction that we went through, just to kind of give you a glimpse into what it can potentially look like and how long it can take. Today I'm going to discuss not for cause evictions. This is the preferred method for us here at this office for evicting tenants. And I've been thinking about really why that is. And I guess my main reason for it is I feel it's just a lot less sticky. I feel like it's a more mutual agreement. And I feel like it's a situation where the emotions are allowed to be kept out of it a little bit more than they are for the for cause evictions. Ultimately, and it is in my opinion, I don't have any statistical numbers to back this up, but I do feel that it takes a little bit longer to get into court. But once in court, I do feel like the proceedings tend to go quicker because there's not as much to argue and bicker over back and forth with the tenants versus the landlords. So once in court, I feel like it does go faster. So not for cause evictions. Most common time we see this is just when there is a owner that wants the unit back for whatever reason. Usually it's for non-payment, but the tenant is maybe only 1 to 2 months behind, and the owner understands that the ability of them to get that rent that the tenant did not pay, they're probably not going to see it at this point in time. So we have the conversation, we let the owners know what the reasons are for doing a for cause versus a not for cause, So we go over it with them and we kind of let the owner make the decision. We let them know what our preferred method is, and we kind of take it from there. A couple things with not for cause. If the tenant is under a lease, a term lease, you cannot do not for cause evictions. You can only do them if the tenant is on a month-to-month, a tenant at will lease. And really all it is the owner giving the tenant 30 days to say, hey, listen, thank you very much for having been a tenant, but I no longer would like to have you as a tenant and I want the apartment back. We've seen people that want to move back into their apartment, and that's the reason. We've seen people that want to have a family member move into the apartment. Sometimes the owner is selling the building and the buyer is requesting to have that unit vacant for whatever reason. But a lot of times it's the owner feels that the unit's not quite up to market rate. In order to get it up to market rate, they need to kind of clean it up. The tenant's been difficult to work with over the years or over the year, and the owner would just like to kind of start fresh and get a new tenant in that unit. So what happens is the owner or us on the owner's behalf will send the tenant a 30-day notice to vacate the apartment, and that the owner would no longer like to continue the contractual agreement with the tenant under the lease. So you need to do this. They need to be out at the end of a billing cycle. So what do I mean by that? So right now it's the middle of July. I can't tell a tenant that they need to be out in the middle of August. So right now, what I would need to do is send the tenant a termination of tenancy letter effective the last day of August, so August 31st. I have seen where people say, I want people out on September 1st. The problem is if you put September 1st, that means midnight on September 1st in the court's eyes. We all understand that the owner just wants the apartment back on September 1st, but I have seen judges throw out cases where it says that and says, this is not written properly. It needs to be at the end of a billing cycle, and it's forced the landlord to start all over. So once again, tenant-friendly state. I don't make the rules, I just play by them. So you need to make sure that your termination of tenancy is on the last day of a billing cycle, and it needs to include the language that the tenant needs to provide the keys back to the landlord as notification that they have surrendered their interest within the property. So very technical, but you want to make sure that you cover yourself, because like I said, this is a tenant-friendly state, and I have seen judges throw out cases over the smallest of details where we all knew exactly what was intended. However, the law can't look at it as what was intended, it's what is as written. Sometimes tenants don't take these termination notices well, and they ask us like, what's the reason, so on and so forth. I try not to get into that, because that's where the emotions start to kick in. That's where the tit for tat, and it can start to get sticky. And I just try and explain to the tenant, it's a two-way street. If you want to move out of the apartment, you are required to give the owner 30 days notice. If the owner wants you to move out, they're required to give you 30 days notice. So it's written into the lease. It's it's as plain as day, and the tenant needs to understand that it's a two-way street, and that both parties have an interest in the property, and that things don't always work out the way both parties want. And unfortunately, that's why sometimes these cases go to court, and that's why sometimes tenants want to move on from landlords and landlords want to move on from tenants. So that is just a brief understanding of evictions for cause. In my next video, I will get into more examples and what it is that you can expect if you actually do go to court for a not for cause eviction here in the state of Massachusetts. Once again, this is Jesse with Nexus Property Management out of the Worcester office. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.